Welcome to this week's edition of Break the Bank. I'm Jeff DeForest. Very happy to have you guys with us once again on Bleacher Brothers as we try to do just that by handicapping. We're going to give you 5 games and maybe take a look at a couple of others. And Mike and I will get into some baseball later on. It's already underway today. One of my favorite days of the postseason when you have all 4 series in action. You have 4 teams facing elimination. And you have us trying to figure out which way to go. I kind of feel like Jerry Quarry walking into a barrage of punches from Muhammad Ali or Joe Frazier back in the day when they used to have that on ESPN Classics. I think they had to take ESPN Classics off the air just because every night it seemed like Jerry Quarry was getting the shit beat out of him. But that's how I feel in trying to pick these baseball games today. We'll get into more detail a bit later on in the program. Let me introduce the crew to you. We have the numbers man himself, Mr. Mike Jones. Michael, how are you?
Great. We're ready to go. After a 3-2 last week, we finally got it back on the winning track, so we'll be ready to go.
And we have Frank G, who we thought was somewhere in New Jersey, but it looks like he's doing his second tour of duty in Afghanistan. Are you coming to us from some bunker somewhere?
I'm feeling the 5-0. I'm feeling the 5-0 this week, Tifa.
All right, very good. Last week we had unanimity on the UM game against Florida State. We were laying anywhere between 4 and 4.5. I think it went off 4 at post time, which was surprising. So the money was coming in on Florida State in that ball game. You're sitting there, it's 28-3, late in the third quarter, and you're thinking, geez, where am I going to go partying over the weekend here? Is Resorts International booked? I don't know. I was thinking about going to the Bahamas. You're wondering where you're going to park your yacht at what restaurant on the Intercoastal. And the next thing you know, what happens? What rears its ugly head, Mike? We've talked about this a lot. The crystal ball factor, which is, I believe, becoming one of the most dangerous factors and one of the most important things that you have to compute into every equation that you make when you're gambling on the University of Miami. So the guy puts a lid on everything that he's doing. They had exploited this big weakness in the Florida State secondary. He did test him with a bomb early in the game. It didn't work, and I was so happy to see he came right back to it, scores a touchdown, gets up by essentially 4 scores. There are very few ways doing all the mathematical permutations that you can be ruined and lose that game, except once Cristobal got involved. We did manage to prevail, but 28-22 was a lot closer than it should have been. What did you think of that one?
Yeah, surprising. Just one of these things where you leave your defense on the field. You don't try to take advantage at certain times of offensive plays. I thought that what got that game close was the amount of plays that Miami's defense had. They couldn't get off the field on third down. Had some fourth down conversions in these last couple of drives, and then you're up 9 with an easy coast, and you think you would take a field goal, a 45-yard field goal, at least put the kicker in a position to try to clinch the game, and he decides to go for it on fourth down, throws a pass that looked like it wasn't intended to anybody, and then you put yourself through an onside kick again as they make it a 6-point game. So again, you don't understand a lot of what some of these coaches do. It's too much analytics instead of managing a game, I think. In this particular case, you had a chance to, with an onside kick, to possibly lose the game if you're Miami. So hopefully he figures this out as the time goes on, Jeff, as we get to the potential playoff. But, yeah, there's a little bit of shaky times when you watch Cristobal work.
Frank, I'm sure you can relate to the Cristobal factor from your days in the afternoons at Freehold when you were skipping school. And I guess it would have been Eric Capitello, not Carmine, his old man, the Big Red, who would have been yanking a horse that was 1-9 somewhere about mid-stretch, just as you thought you were cruising home to an easy victory. I don't know if you caught any of that UM-FSU game, but it did look like it was one of those things where all your friends are texting you saying this one's in the bag, and the next thing you know, you're holding a big bag of dog poop, waiting to deposit it in the bank account. It seemed like it got a lot more dicey than it should. I'm sure you've been in those kind of situations in your gambling degenerate lifetime.
Oh, for sure, Defa. But we were, I had him on the money line. So when I turned it on in the fourth quarter there, I was kind of sweating it out at the end because I had him on the spread and the money line. So at least we got the cover. So that was a bonus.
Yeah, and a very soft schedule the rest of the way. So you're wondering which one of those games. That'll be the thing to try and determine. Mike, you've probably already done some research on this. Which is going to be the screw-up game where the Cristobal factor actually costs you a game against what would appear to be a lesser opponent? The Canes will be favored all the rest of the way unless something dramatic or catastrophic happens, so like they lose Carson Beck. And it's nonetheless a closer shave than it should have been. 28-22 should have never happened. And you do have to have great respect among all of the gambling horror stories that could happen. The Cristobal factor, coming back to snake bite you, is now, it's almost like the plague. It's just absolutely the roughest contingency that you have to deal with. All right, going to move into this week. We have our 3 community games. So last week, the official tally was I ended up taking it on the chin. I can't handicap the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm going to come right back and get involved in one of those Chiefs games. Well, I guess we all are, as one of our community games this week. The record for me, 4-1, 14-6 overall. Mike was 3-2 last week. Now we're 13-17 on the season. Was doing it a couple of weeks longer than I was. And Frankie G now weighing in with a consistent 2-3. Only a matter of time. He's feeling 5-0. So we'll see if we can get that done. All right, we have the graphic up. Let's start there with the Kansas City Chiefs and the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions getting 2.5 points, playing far better football, you would have to say. Winners of 4 in a row after that season-opening loss to the Green Bay Packers. That gave us the illusion that the Packers were really good and that Detroit was going to struggle with Dan Campbell at the helm, without Ben Johnson, without Aaron Glenn. We're seeing how those guys are faring. Glenn's 0-5. And meanwhile, Detroit, at least at this point, now that there are no more undefeated teams in the league, seems to be playing and having the most momentum and playing the best football of anybody. The Chiefs been somewhat enigmatic. Let's start with you, Frankie G, and see what you see about our number 1 game of our 3 community games. The Kansas City Chiefs laying 2.5 points and hosting the Detroit Lions.
Like you said, Detroit's offense is playing really good right now. They are 4-1 against the spread this year. This is the second week in a row that the Lions will be on the road. And Kansas City's at home, where they rarely lose. And Chiefs defense is playing really well. And I think I'm going to lay the money on Kansas City minus the 2.5. I think Kansas City gets it done like 28-24.
All right, close ball game, but nonetheless, you have the Chiefs prevailing. Michael, the Chiefs, as I said, have been confounding for me. I went against them, and they romped over what turns out to be a very bad Baltimore Ravens team right now. And then last week on the Monday night game, I thought they'd probably take out the Jaguars, who we've said somewhat enigmatic during the course of the season. Maybe it's time to embrace them a little bit. They played with a lot of heart, coming back in that ball game inside of 2 minutes to knock off the Kansas City Chiefs, who in typical Patrick Mahomes fashion had just taken the lead right before the conclusion of the fourth quarter, only to see the defense, which Frank is saying has been fairly stellar, give up, on a series of miraculous plays and then a pass interference call. Made the biggest difference of all. Pass interference in the end zone led to the game-winning score. What do you see in Detroit Lions and the Kansas City Chiefs, Mike Jones?
Well, I'm going to go over right now and give you the total, but I'm going to pick the side because that's what we like to do on this show. I kind of think Detroit's playing the best football of any team in the NFL right now. Kansas City coming off a short week of prep after playing Monday night in Jacksonville, traveling home. Real tough loss to have that game fall down to the last, 15 seconds of the game. Interference call in the end zone. You get some questionable efforts and stuff like that at the defensive end, which we've seen video of Chris Jones kind of loafing. So that Kansas City's going to come ready. But if we go back 2 years ago to when the game won, I believe Kansas City hosted Detroit after winning a Super Bowl, and Detroit went in there and beat them. So familiar face for the young Detroit Lion team at that point, not as good as they are now. I think we're seeing that it's really about Dan Campbell as Aaron Glenn struggles in New York and Ben Johnson struggles a little bit in Chicago. I kind of like Detroit plus the 2.5. I like that this line is rising from 1.5 opening now to 2.5. I might buy it up to 3. I just think even with the 2 corners out for the Lions, I think the way they are offensively, their offensive line coming together, great running game. Chiefs defense looked a little vulnerable Monday night. I know that they don't have a mobile quarterback that scored the final touchdown in Detroit, but I kind of like Detroit in this spot, plus the 2.5.
All right, I'm going to weigh in with the final vote in what turns out to be a split decision, and I'm going to go ahead and line up with you, Mike Jones, and take the 2.5 points with the Detroit Lions. Sometimes you can take all the analytics in the world. You just have to dive in and believe what it is that you're actually looking at. It always amazes me. You'll see these scouts completely whiff on a player in college football. Take Anthony Richardson, for example, who was drafted in desperation by the Indianapolis Colts, trying to salvage their franchise by getting a franchise quarterback. The guy literally was throwing a ball like Stevie Wonder when he was with the Florida Gators. The most inaccurate passer we've seen. Great athletic specimen. Turns out, from all accounts, and I've seen some interviews with him, just a well-grounded sweetheart of a kid, kind of guy that you can root for. He handles his failures with a lot of dignity and class, but never ceases to amaze that scouts are looking at this guy. He's got a scatter arm. He's throwing the ball around like a young Nolan Ryan all over the place, out of the strike zone. And all of a sudden, you're going to assume that you can fix that his first year in the pros by throwing him into the fire. It never seems to work. So sometimes you have to believe what your eyes are telling you. Watching the Chiefs, do they not, guys, appear extremely vulnerable so far this year? The 2-3, their record would indicate that. Don't seem to have the same spark. Watching game day last week, Nick Saban was saying, I think probably the most profound thing that any coach has ever said on any show. You have to score points to win. It helps to put points on the board. And the logic there is pristine. So I think Detroit can score. Kansas City is really struggling offensively by comparison to any model that we've seen in the past. I think Detroit is rolling. Kansas City may have some doubts about themselves at this stage, even though their core players would represent rationally a good deal of confidence after winning a couple of Super Bowls. But I think Detroit's just playing better ball. If you look at the two teams so far this year, Detroit rattling off 4 straight wins after that Green Bay game. And the Kansas City Chiefs up and down and life and death in the games that they've been winning. So I'm with you. I'm going to go against Frankie G on this one. Detroit Lions give me the 2.5 points all day long. And I think they'll go into Kansas City Arrowhead and lay one on the Kansas City Chiefs. I would take Detroit both with the 2.5 points and probably a good taste on the money line as well, thinking they're going to win this game outright. But getting 2.5 Detroit Lions for me all day long. So we have 2 for Detroit, Mike Jones and me, and Frankie G, lone wolf out there trying to go 5-0. He is all over the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, the other pro game, kind of a weird one that we picked out, and the reason being it's just kind of an oddball spread to me. The New England Patriots, who beat the Buffalo Bills straight up just the other night. It was a great ball game, highly competitive and wild back and forth. Drake May exhibited a lot of composure. We're seeing maybe where Mike Vrabel, I wasn't sure that Mike Vrabel was Vince Lombardi. Everybody was saying how whatever team gets him is going to be vastly improved. I don't know what Gerard Mayo did or didn't do with the Patriots last year, but it was a quick exit visa for him from Bob Kraft, and highly coveted the former Patriot, Mike Vrabel. It does seem like he has his team turning in the right direction. I don't know. I thought the estimates were pretty high before the season. That I think the over/under total for their wins for the year was something like 8 and a hook. And I thought, well, that's really optimistic considering they won 4 stinking ball games last year and still have a second-year quarterback. You're never sure which way that guy is going to go. Is he going to level off and maybe even regress a little bit, or is he going to be able to use that first year as a springboard? Apparently, May is doing that. The Saints, on the other hand, you couldn't give me enough points to take the Saints until they finally gave them 16 and a hook as the opening line against the Buffalo Bills a couple of weeks ago. They covered that point spread. And then, dare I bring this game up, Mike?
Yeah.
Your football Giants against the Saints last week, a veritable tragedy. So let's start with you, because I think you have a little bit of an emotional leftover and hangover from last week's New York Saints game. But giving away 3.5 with the Patriots, I'm not sure that 3.5 is enough points to tempt me to take the Saints. What do you think?
Kind of in agree with you. I think Mike Vrabel's done a lot to change around what New England's doing. Drake May looked a little more comfortable than you would normally think in a game like that. I see the development happening with him pretty easily. Stephon Diggs stepped up to have one of the biggest games as a former Bill against his ex-teammates, receiving over 146 yards, I believe. New Orleans won with smoke and mirrors. They get 5 turnovers from a Giant team, a big play for 87-yard touchdown pass. Just don't see that happening for New England. I think this is a game where if you're going to turn the corner, if you're the Patriots, I see this as a game. If they're going to be competitive in this, give Buffalo a little run. These are the games you cannot miss out on. New Orleans been very competitive all year. Gave Buffalo a little scare up there a couple weeks ago when they lost by 12, although score didn't indicate how close the game was. I'd like New England in a spot to win maybe 27-20 on the basis of just the little more experience, the coaching, a little confidence after that win. Normally you get the letdown. I think going on the road is another helper, back-to-back road games. I like New England like 3.5 in this spot.
All right, Frankie G, how do you see this one? New England Patriots laying 3.5 to the New Orleans Saints on the road.
No, I really think the Saints are one of the worst teams in the league. And like Mike said, the Saints defense last week forced 5 turnovers in order to win. And it was a huge win for the Patriots, beating the Bills at Buffalo. So that's just like a statement game. And it is back-to-back weeks, road games for the Patriots, but that's not going to matter because the Patriots are just a better team. And Drake May is growing up fast here. I like the Pats minus 3.5, 24-17.
This is going to be maybe a reason for everybody to run and make a bet right away, as we're in unanimity on this ball game. The Saints looked horrible when they named Spencer Rattler as their starting quarterback. I thought that further was yet another nail in the coffin in what appeared to be a season of doom and gloom. They were horrendous in the early portion of the season, showed some signs of life, as they say in horse racing, and at least sort of battling against the Buffalo Bills. But maybe the Bills are going through a little bit of a malaise right now because not only did they struggle much more so than you thought they would against the Saints, but then they lose outright to the Patriots. That Patriot game, though, speaking of springboards, they should really be not just an emotional spark for this team, but we saw some things develop there, not the least of which was Stephon Diggs, who was sensational in that ball game. Now, I don't know, you're a big motivational, psychological guy, Mike, so how much of that do you think was Diggs just wanting to stick it to the Buffalo Bills, that performance? Because he was great in that game, and it represented, I think, a real step forward for the Patriots offense. Did you read more into that? I mean, can Diggs just continue to use that as a platform? This performance he had against the Bills. What did you think of that?
Yeah, they said he played to the crowd, and the crowd kind of embraced him. It was time there, and he had an interview with Melissa Stark before the game. You could see the focus and how happy he was to be back there in Buffalo playing his first game back. And then I think he got the sidelines riled up, and I think they knew what it meant to. And I think when you have a veteran leadership, guy who's had some success in the league, going to find a new team, I think those players that implement their rhythm, vibe, or attitude toward the sidelines, I think helped. I thought you saw a lot of positivity coming out of Diggs. Never really let down in the game. I think the game was never really in doubt for a cover standpoint. I think the worst they were was -4. I just think it's one of these games in a rivalry in the division. We laid more than a touchdown division. I know the Giants are getting that this week with Philly. I think a much different situation, but yeah, I like New England all week in this game, and it worked out okay for me against Buffalo. I just see that as being a factor that could catapult. That win could catapult New England to go. Now, you always got to be worried about letdown teams have going on the road playing a lesser team, but I think the fact that New Orleans had a big win and how they did it probably will open the eyes of the tape when New England goes. People look at that tape so and say, oh, this is not going to be a walkover game. And New Orleans has been pretty competitive all year in all their games. So the line's probably right. It got bet down a little bit. The Sharps pulled it from 5.5 down to 3.5. I think we might see a 4.5 by game time. So if you're looking at New England, you might get the number now as opposed to later. But yeah, I just think I like the Patriots spot just because I see this coming. I just like the coaching. I like what they're doing there. Development of Drake May, I see. Veteran leadership at Diggs. Defense playing pretty well. Got things done against a very tough Buffalo front. Offensive line and all that. They looked like they were making some headway. So I like New England in this spot. I know it's against the norm. All that emotion, the last thing you see kind of doesn't indicative of what happens the following week. But I'm going to take my chances and take New England.
I don't know that I am quite this confident, but it just struck me that seeing New England there, and you mentioned that the line had been higher and it may go back up by another point. I'd be willing to lay that. But finding New England at -3.5 in this spot for me, and I could be dead wrong, and then we'd all be wiped out on this particular ball game. But it would be like finding gas at 35 cents a gallon, wouldn't it? I mean, imagine the lines at those pumps to try and get money down on that proposition. So I like a couple of things that I saw, especially in the aftermath of that game against the Buffalo Bills. They had to hang tough. You know how those games go. The sort of upstart team that's coming on from a 4-win season, trying to establish that they actually have the ability to win ball games. They're still in that so-called learn how to win mode. Vrabel comes in as a new coach, definitely a departure from what we saw there, certainly with Belichick and Gerard Mayo. And again, after the game, he's greeting every player and giving them a hug through the. And I was contrasting that with the body language you got from Mike McDaniel after that catastrophic loss for the Dolphins to the Carolina Panthers. when they were 17. And you could just sort of around things, Mike. I mean, you can sense something good is happening with the New England Patriots. So,
Yeah.
well, while the Saints may have at least found reason to take their head out of the Bourbon Street gutter after finally winning a ball game, it was a god-awful performance by your very threatened and inconsistent New York Giant team, Mike. Turnovers galore. Jackson Dart's second start, he came back to the pack a little bit after people I thought got a little carried away with how good he was in that first game. Because what did he throw for? Like 92 yards or something? It was not exactly a monstrous performance. Didn't make you think, hey, we got the next Dan Marino here. So, I'm feeling pretty confident about laying the 3.5 for the New England Patriots. That'll probably be the game we all lose. But I don't see how that line is that short. That was one of those lines that when I looked at it originally, I thought I could have seen them being established right away as like 6.5 point favorites. So more than willing to 3.5, as you guys are. Frankie G, Mike Jones, and I all in agreement. The New England Patriots laying 3.5 on the road at the Caesars Superdome, and I think it's going to take some special kind of voodoo for the New Orleans Saints to come out on top. The Patriots would have to literally be on Bourbon Street all night long the night before, eating what amounts to a sodium bloodbath worth of food over there. I think did not come away with a victory in this game, and it looks to me like they're sort of buying in a little bit to the whole Vrabel thing. So we'll see what happens there. Going to look at the college game, then we'll get into our electives here. This is the last of our 3 community games here for Mike, Frankie G, and me. And this would be, you would have to say, I guess there are a couple other games that might size up, but this looks like the marquee matchup, does it not, Mike Jones? Oklahoma Sooners, Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
Line now at just 1 point. And a lot of this is centering around the status, which is coming from parts unknown about John Mateer, the guy who at one point looked like the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. He was playing great, and he hurt his hand, had to have surgery on his hand. Apparently it wasn't all that major because there's talk he may come back, and that seems to be impacting the spread. Oklahoma and Texas, and this is in Oklahoma. It's the Red River Showdown. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, this line is kind of perplexing. It tells me that Mateer might come back. He started off at 3 and dropped to 1. Texas had a really poor performance. Again, all the accolades for Arch Manning seem to be now in question, as he's not even listed as a top pick now, and as a quarterback coming out. Has been kind of a disappointment for Texas fans and nationally. But this game is, I go back to the desperate times of teams that really find a desperation. I think this is where it definitely falls in Texas. The line coming down with the chance of Mateer playing is why I think we're seeing the 1. But even then, the line to me should be an Oklahoma favorite. So I think Texas, the odds makers are telling you they still like Texas, still think they have a little bit left in the tank. I'm going to ride it a little bit and take Texas in this game. I know Oklahoma, it's a game that is too close to call a lot of these times. It's such a big rivalry. They play the game in Dallas. I just think that this is Texas with their life on the line, the desperation, tough spot for Oklahoma. If Mateer doesn't play, I really give Texas a little edge here, probably by more than 1. So I'm going to take my chances and say, don't know if I love the game if Mateer's playing, but I think with Texas in the situation they're in, I would lay the 1 with them.
Okay, laying the 1 point with the Texas Longhorns. Frankie G, I know you love diving into these college football matchups here. The Red River rivalry. What do you make of this one?
Like you said, Archie Manning not living up to the hype. I feel like a lot of the pressure is on Arch Manning here. We got 2 of the best defenses in the league. The over-under is a low 43. Oklahoma only let up 13 points to Michigan and 17 to Auburn. And Oklahoma has won 5 of its last 7 versus Texas. Assuming that John Mateer is playing, I'm going to bet Oklahoma plus the 1.5 here.
Okay,
I got an underdog. See that?
Is that a conditional though? What if Mateer is out? We're making it part of our community games, but would that change your?
If he's out, I'd probably play Texas. I'll be honest.
Okay, but you're saying if Mateer's in there, so we're going to take that as the position. Michael Huggins Jr. is the backup quarterback, by the way, and I don't know what the book is on him exactly, but I'm on the Sooners in this one. I was surprised. I thought they would be favored over Texas. Arch Manning was supposed to be all everything. He was going to be all SEC. He was going to be all American. He was going to be all world. He was going to be all Taco Bell, for God's sake. They were giving him every award. And I don't ever like to root against the kid. He seems like a guy that gives a very, very respectable account of himself as a person. It comes, of course, from this amazing lineage of quarterback play with Archie Manning and Peyton and Eli, and of course, and now Arch Manning. Highly touted, waited around for a couple of years. Most guys would have transferred out of there. He was determined to wait around to get the spot at Texas. Gets an enormous platform to demonstrate whether he really is the man right out of the chute. We were talking about this game, Mike, before the season, even weeks before the season. You're saying, hey, how's Arch Manning going to do when he goes to the Horseshoe there and has to go on the road for his first big start? He had played a couple of games last year in relief of Ewers, but nonetheless, this was his first really big-time start as the number one quarterback on the team, and he scored 7 stinking points. To lose to Florida, I was, Mike, I don't know about you. I thought Billy Napier would already be on a plane to Guam or something with the booster money that he was going to pick up. There was no way I anticipated that Texas was going to, and Texas has a great defense, as Frankie G alluded to. So I could not see them losing at the Swamp, especially after the University of South Florida had won there. It seemed impossible to conceive. I saw nothing from the Gators in that game against the Hurricanes, except that their offense was beyond suspect and their defense wasn't good enough to hold together when the offense wasn't producing anything. Absolutely swadooch. So I was shocked by that Texas lost last week on the road to the Florida Gators. I think this game goes Oklahoma's way, so I'm going to say, Oklahoma. I'm going to be singing with the man there. We'll be singing Oklahoma, I think, all throughout the second half in this game. Look, Oklahoma's got an excellent offensive line. And you mentioned the elite defense there of Texas. I just don't think it's enough to make up for. Sometimes, as we were saying earlier in the show, you have to believe what your eyes are telling you. Everybody's waiting for Arch Manning to develop into this monster, and maybe someday he will, but it doesn't look like it's happening on an overnight basis. So I'm going to take the point with Oklahoma and assume that they're going to come away on top of that ball game. So what do we have? We had you're the lone guy on Texas there. Frankie G, very conditional, suspect pick there. Frankie, not exactly an overwhelming commitment with the material conditional. And I'm going to say Oklahoma either way. I think they're going to win this ball game against Texas. I think Texas has just been perceived to be far better than they actually are, and we've seen that so far in the results that they put out there on the field. All right, elective time. So we have a little bit of disagreement. One unanimous game there when it came to the community games that we were picking. We all like the New England Patriots, so watch out for that one, people. And then mixed bag on the Oklahoma and Texas game, and Kansas City and Detroit. All right, Frankie, we'll let you start this out because you hit with that over in the Dallas Jets game, 37-22, but way over. When did you pop the champagne? At halftime in that one? That had to be a nice score for you. So what are you looking at first as your first choice of games on the free slate?
I got 2-1 here, the 2-1 special. I got my Bet Brawler Sports best bet of the week here. Best bets. I got the side, the total, and a teaser for you. Let's go Denver. Nice. Denver minus 7.5 to the Jets. Over under 43.5. The game's in London, England. And since 2007, we've had these international games. The favorites have been covering the spread at 64%. The record since 2007 is 37-21-1. For the over-unders over those years, I got 28 overs and 31 unders. But at the start of this year, the record was 25-31. So the three international games this year, Chiefs-Chargers in Brazil went over, Vikings-Steelers in Ireland went over, Vikings-Browns in London went over. I think we're very much due for an under here because that used to be the norm. So we are going to do, I think 7.5 points is just way too much. Denver's coming off an emotional high beating the Eagles last week. Denver, well, they're both traveling across the pond, but Denver coming off that emotional high. The Jets are desperate. If the Jets can just stop excuse my language, just stop fumbling the ball, I think they're going to be rating this game. I see a low-scoring game, like 20-17. So my best bets, I don't like the picked the Jets, but this spread just looks out of whack to me in the international game. So the Jets plus 7.5, under the 43.5. I think that's an easy one. And we're going to tease it just because we can. Teaser the Jets tease it up to plus 13.5. Tease the over-under from 43.5 to 49.5. Take the under. So those are my best plays.
You've been.
I'm going 5-0 this week. So just write it down now, pal. Let's go.
Whatever stimulants you were on when you were doing this research. Yeah, that was fantastic, Frankie G. You're coming up firing now. It took him to week number 6, and all of a sudden the guy's got like a week of conviction on this game, and you're allowed the expletive because it's a parenthetical that automatically is associated with any conversation about the New York Jets. Have to be the New York effing Jets. So more than understandable to let that slip out there. I love it. I mean, Mike, tell me you weren't impressed here with Frankie G just going off and saying that his Jets are being suffered a blow of indignity, the likes of which we've never seen before, even with regard to the new joke, which is that if Mark Sanchez is found guilty of like stabbing this guy's face wide open, his sentence will be that he has to play 5 more years with the Jets. Not even, and he probably would prefer some, soft camp-like federal prison at that point. Although I guess these would be local charges.
Who picks fights for 69-year-olds? Not me,
Well, I mean, that's a key in all the sports now, especially as you get into recreational sports when you're older, which is make sure you pick your opponent well. So, all right, Frankie G, you have, and that was a lot of stuff there. Actually, gave us a little bonus pick with the teaser play. Jets getting 7.5 from the Broncos, the game in London, and the under 43 and a hook, then tease that up to 13.5 and parlay it with an under of 49.5. Mike, so we've got the full package here for Frankie G, but Mike, where are you going? You may as well give us both of your free selections.
I'll come at you with both and a bonus pick, okay? So with the two that we're going to put on our record, we're going to go right back to Tallahassee. Florida State takes on Pitt plus the 10.5. Just think that Florida State, that's such a devastating loss to them. I don't know that the Alabama game is indicative now of where we're seeing it with two straight losses at Virginia and at home against Miami. Miami had the game, and the crystal ball factor made that closer than should have been. I don't see them as a double-digit favorite here against Pitt, who's coming down there. I know they've lost a game. I just kind of like Pitt in this spot plus the 10.5, thinking a little bit of a letdown spot for Florida State after the big loss against the big in-state rival. So I'm going to grab Pitt plus 10.5 in that game down in Tallahassee. And then I'm going to go to down to Vegas. I think one of the most devastating losses, I think. I know that the Vegas Circa Survivor Pool lost 48% of the players and had over 3,500 people on the Arizona Cardinals. In a game where DeMarcano doesn't hold on to the ball after he runs in the end zone, cost them a 28-6 lead. I got lucky because I had Tennessee thinking I had no shot. They come back and make it 9, and then, of course, go for 2 when I get frustrated with 8, thinking I get a push. Not only do I get the 9 back, I get the extra touchdown plus the game-winning field goal as the Cardinals couldn't move the ball. Then I see that Jonathan Gannon's gets fined $100,000 for smacking the guy in the stomach, which under Bill Parcells, I could tell you that the mental anguish to that player would have been far worse than what Parcells would have done, tortured him for what he did. And you see that often. You saw that with Donovan Mitchell do it in the Colts game, costing them the game. But when are these players going to learn to just get over the line?
That should have happened once in the history of the NFL, and then never again. Would you agree?
Yeah.
And I think goes in the end zone. It's been happening over the course of. It seems like it's an annual affair. And at least one time a year, some guy starts his celebration mode and throws a ball down when he's being untouched in the end zone, and it costs his team a touchdown, and it costs the bettors. I mean, think about that. Yep. There should have been a class action suit against this guy by anybody who lost money on that game. Frankie G, are you with us on that?
Yeah, especially with gambling the way it is now today. So you have 3,600 people going crazy. You have the Cardinals in that survivor pool that are out, and that's $1,000 a ticket. I heard one guy had 4 tickets on it on VSiN.
Oh, geez.
He's out of all the pools, yeah. So you look at that. So I think that's a smoke and mirrors game for Tennessee. Now, we know the Raiders get blown out, having trouble. I just think Pete Carroll rallies the troops in this particular game. I think should have been a blowout in Arizona. This line would have been 7.5, 8 if that crazy fumble doesn't occur. So I think we're getting a nice number here with the Raiders minus 4.5. You hate the 4.5 with a 1-win team, but both teams have 1 win in this spot. I just think this is a spot where the Raiders get a little healthy. I think their defense shows up, puts a little bit of pressure on Ward, and I think that the Raiders will get the W, and I think they win by 7 or 10 points.
Boy, you were really looking at the bounce thing there. Raiders bouncing back after just an absolute atrocity. And coming back now and prevailing in this ball game, at least as far as the point spread goes.
Yeah.
All right. I was looking at 2 games, and I won't say that I'm about to go out and refinance the house. Probably out of options there anyway at this point from some of the previous bad beats that we've taken. But I'm looking at this Jaguars only laying 1.5 against the Seahawks. And the Jaguars are at home. They just had that thrilling victory over the Kansas City Chiefs. I like what I saw from the Jaguars. Everybody looks good in celebrations, Mike and Frankie G, don't they? Well, whatever your last party was when you were celebrating, you probably made a very favorable impression of people that you were getting along with everybody and things were wonderful. But I was looking at the post-game celebration with Trevor Lawrence and the Jacksonville Jaguars after they beat the Chiefs. They took some camera in the locker room there, and this guy Cohn, he seemed to have this team thinking in a very positive light, positive enough that they were able to dig themselves out of what looked like a burial because the Chiefs scoring late. Did you not think, guys, that game was over and that the Chiefs would ultimately prevail? Spagnuolo would come with some wild blitz and good coaching all the way around also because Jacksonville was prepared for what the Chiefs were going to do in that final possession. And so they obviously had diagnosed Spagnuolo's strategies to the point where they marched it down the field, got a little lucky. I don't know. What did you think of the call, Mike? The pass interference. I think they had to call it.
It was legit. I thought it was a definite pass interference.
Yeah, so I was impressed. The way they came back, peeled themselves off the mat there in the final 2 minutes, came back, won that ball game. Trevor Lawrence, who we're trying to figure out, I mean, is a guy considered to be much maligned, as the cliche goes, if he really wasn't all that good to begin with? So we thought this guy was going to be a cinch, top Hall of Fame quarterback coming out of college. He looked like the most natural since Andrew Luck, in terms of everybody saying, whoa, he's a prototype professional. He's thrown a rock at LSU like there's no tomorrow. Gets into the pros. He had a horrible upside-down record. Now, granted, what a lousy franchise. But in that ballgame, in that final drive, I thought he really came to life and was doing things that we're seeing Baker Mayfield do this year, where when all the money's on the table, he's the guy that's making the right move. So I'm going to go ahead and lay 1.5 against the Seahawks, who are just in this wild shootout. And while they're capable of putting points on the board, I think the big schlep across the country, it's one of the longest trips that any football team has to take. And the Jags coming off of that, what you have to think would be a very inspiring springboard-like victory. I'm going to lay 1.5 with the Jaguars in that game over the Seahawks. And then the other team that's really been surprising to me, well, 2 of them. What do you think of the 49ers, Mike? Are you a big fan of what they've done so far? It seems to me they've manufactured a bunch of victories, and they're doing it with mirrors, literally. And the record is impressive, and they're winning, which you would have to give credit to any NFL team for getting a win. But it's not like they're blowing you away, the San Francisco 49ers. What do you think? Is that a bit of
another game Thursday night where the 49ers come in without their quarterback and 2 wide receivers out, and the line goes from 3 up to 8.5. Made a lot of people think that this was going to be an easy run, and a lot of over 2,000 players lost their ticket on the Rams on Thursday night. So devastating week for survivor players. But yeah, I mean, it's a very impressive win. Mac Jones was a guy who was thought of to be the 3rd pick of the draft of the year. He came out going to San Francisco. They passed on him to Trey Lance. So now they get a chance with Mac Jones, and he's come in and played very well in the games that he's played. He's undefeated with them. So they have a pretty good quarterback situation. And even though they paid Purdy, that they got 2 guys that can play. San Francisco's competitive. Any team with Fred Warner on there, I don't mind taking a piece of. I think he's the best linebacker in the game. Their defense is a little bit better now with Robert Saleh coming back. San Francisco's a team to reckon with. I just really like who they're going up against on this week. Very fascinating game because Tampa is Baker Mayfield's playing to have an MVP style season. Tampa's winning these games. I've always thought Todd Bowles doesn't get the respect he deserves as a head coach. So I think that's a very tough spot that I would like to stay away from. But I see you're going with one of teams in this spot. So I'm going to let you take the floor.
I'm going to let Frankie call me Mr. Chalk here because I'm going to go ahead and lay the 3 with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I just think, as you mentioned, this kind of grit, heart approach that they've had. Baker Mayfield has been spectacular in these last-minute scoring drives that usually end up reversing what otherwise would have been a negative outcome. They hang in there no matter what, and I believe at home they're going to be tough to beat. And I'd go ahead and lay the field goal here because I'm not as high on the 49ers. I think as good of a game as Mac Jones had last week, he's just as capable of throwing a stinker in there. And I believe he'll feel some pressure and some heat from the Buccaneers. Buck's a little compromised still. Last we saw, Evans was like grabbing the back of his hamstring, so I don't think he'll be available. But the toughness that's been displayed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, both physically and mentally, I think is enough here. I sound like some general there at one of those conventions with the jumpster. Yeah, the toughness. I sound like Dan Campbell. But I believe that they are playing well enough that they will be 3 points better in this ballgame than the 49ers, also traveling across the country. So I feel confidently laying the 1.5 with the Jaguars and the 3 with the Buccaneers. I don't know, Frankie, you have a thought on that game? Or
No, just definitely. I like rooting for Baker Mayfield. You know, when he first got into the league, he kind of seemed like a little bit of a prick. Now I think he's found the Lord. He's a Christian now. He's a changed man. So we're rooting for Baker.
He was selling everything.
But I'm heading out to the bar now.
Oh yeah, okay, it sounds good. And
I'm heading out to the bar to go watch the Yankees. So we're gonna lay the juice on the Yankees tonight minus the 170. I don't usually like to lay that much juice, but you could always take the Yanks minus the 1.5, and you're probably better off doing that. Protect the bankroll.
Yeah, they got the big star now, Schlittler, going out there, and off of that game he threw in the wild card round, you would have to think that they should be heavily favored in this ball game. And then it's great because you could have I think it could have got 4-1 if you took the Yankees after they were down 0-2 to come back and win the series. Last night wasn't easy. Yeah. What were you going to say, Frank?
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun tonight. I'm psyched.
All right. Enjoy yourself. We're going to come back. Mike and I are going to come back. We're going to talk some baseball. 4 games in action today. 4 possible consolidations to the series as you have 4 teams facing elimination. And 1 game's already underway as we're doing this program. And the others is Frank G. He couldn't wait to get to that bar, right? He had 1 foot off camera already. It was great, but very exciting. I love playoff baseball. We're going to come back and talk about that. Mike Jones and I will have a little rundown on what's going on in Major League Baseball today as we try to help you break the bank with that little round object there. The one that with the right movement is very difficult to hit at 100 miles an hour. But we're seeing some pretty good stuff and a lot of drama through the postseason so far. 4 teams facing elimination. You can't beat that. We'll be back to talk about it in a minute on Break the Bank.
Hi, I'm Joe B., founder of Joe B's 100% natural free-range bee pollen, and I want you to feel great. $99 gets you a 6-month supply, and this 7th month is absolutely free. The shipping is free. Joe B's is bee pollen, simple natural nutrition loaded with natural vitamins and minerals. There's only one place to get Joe B's, and that's from me, Joe B. What are you waiting for? You will love my Joe B's, and if you don't, then I will gladly refund your money, no questions asked.
Welcome to Rebet, the first of its kind free-to-play social sports book.
Let's put some money on the game tonight.
I can't. I'm broke.
Or just use the coins.
Coins?
Use Rebet coins for a free and fun betting experience while gaining in-app status. And for the betting enthusiasts, use our sweepstakes model to redeem real money rewards with Rebet Cash.
So New York to cover the spread?
They're -10, bro. It's a lot.
For those who might not get the lingo, use our easy-to-read lines to bet like a pro. And for those with a competitive friendship,
Dallas is going to crush Philly tonight.
Put your money where your mouth is.
I bet.
Compete directly against your friends through our peer-to-peer betting feature. Bet on over 60 major sports leagues with Rebet's dynamic social sportsbook, featuring more than 3,000 diverse betting markets for an unparalleled experience. And with our social feed, you can share your bets with your friends. See a pick you like? Double down with a click of a button. This is Rebet. Welcome to sports betting made social. Legal in 47 states.
All right, welcome back to the show. We're going to talk a little baseball here with my baseball handicapping buddy. That's how I was introduced to this man. Yeah, he's a hell of a baseball handicapper. And I love his numerology and all this stuff that he gets into. And it is wild watching a game with him, especially one that he has money on and especially one that he also has an emotional investment in, like we did when we were watching the ninth inning of that Red Sox-Yankees game about a week ago, a little over a week ago, in the Tipperary pub. And Mike, I mean, he was carrying the entire. He was. You could hear him over the band. That's how involved he was. A couple of quick numbers here, just to wrap up on football. We'll get into this baseball stuff because it fascinates me. All of the different possibilities could take place today. Teaser man who went down last week because of the inept performance of your New York Giants against. I mean, it killed everybody. Going against the New Orleans Saints, who were all against this week against the Patriots. Teaser man, no, he's usually very good, though. He has Cleveland plus 11.5, Tampa Bay plus 3, not laying the 3, and Detroit plus 8.5 in a game against the Chiefs. So that's his teaser. Cleveland Browns plus 11 and a hook, Tampa Bay plus 3, Detroit plus 8.5. Had a couple of things come my way in terms of against the spread and over-unders here. Just trends so far through the season, Mike Jones. Baltimore Ravens, all 5 games over so far this year. Lousy defense, capable of scoring. Lamar Jackson status, I don't know, is that any doubt about whether he'll play this week?
That line being ace, tell him he's not playing this week again.
Okay, so all 5 games over, though. Broncos and New York Giants, 4 or 5 games have been under. Minnesota Vikings, 4 or 5 games have been over. The Raiders covered in week 1, then they lost 4 straight against the spread, so they're ice cold. And the LA Chargers were over in week 1, and then they've gone conservative, and they've had 4 straight unders. So just a couple of things to look at there in case you guys are thinking, I'm not a trend guy, but I heard DeForest say. All right, so here we go. 1 game is underway right now. Mike, do you have a score in that Tiger game?
Yeah, I think the Tigers just got 2 in the bottom of the 5th, made it a 3-2 game, so we got a little bit of a ball game now, runner on second and 1 out now. So the Tigers making a little run here after being down 3-0 in the 5th. So that's good. That's good for the over first half bettors, 4.5, which is a pretty big total. You steal it with 3 runs in the 5th inning, and so you end up going over 4.5. So good start to the day.
All right, so those guys already have some money in the bank here. So you have the Mariners and the Tigers. The Mariners had a 2-1 lead going into this ball game today. Prevailed in the ball game last night, got out to a big lead and held on 8-4 was the final there. The Tigers, you thought, if they can get by this game with Flaherty, who looks like he has some wicked stuff. I mean, that drop on his breaking ball or whatever that changeup is that he throws is significant, and yet he still gets handled by the Mariners in the game last night. Mariners, a team that had a bye in the first round. Of course, they have the Cal Raleigh story going and whether or not he's going to be the MVP. But have been a heartening franchise to watch this year as they kind of come back. It's been a while since they've been in the spotlight. And they've rarely been in the spotlight, except when they had Ken Griffey Jr. So, and I guess they've had other stars, but Ichiro, of course, was a long-time Mariner. And who was their big pitcher?
Alex Rodriguez they had Randy Johnson.
Randy Johnson.
Right. Yeah.
But never really been all that prominent. You know what? They may as well be out there just throwing fish in each other's face like they do at the fish market at the beginning of every Seattle destination sporting event on TV. And just, kind of detach themselves from the league. But this year they were very good. And so they're leading the Tigers in what will be the clinching game 3-2. And this, I don't know how you're approaching this day, Mike Jones. Are you going old school and betting individual games?
Yeah,
trying to knock down a parlay, or you going prop bets? Because I thought last night I almost called you, and I was thinking in that spot when the Yankees were down 2 and Judge was at the plate that he was going to hit a home run. I don't know what the odds were for him to hit a home run in that spot.
No,
I
big.
think he's been like 2 to 1
You
somewhere.
would have gotten 7, 8 to 1 on that bet, Jeff, on that one single at bat. He might be 3 to 1, 4 to 1.
Didn't you know he was going to do it? You knew it, didn't you? I was going to send you that message saying this guy's going to hit a home run here.
I wish he did.
They're giving him crap because all he has is single so far in the series. He had that ringing double earlier. And then when he missed that previous fastball, that was right down the heart of the plate. I mean, if you were going to crush a ball Aaron Judge style, that was the pitch. I mean, that looked like it came off the table at Monterano's, except it was coming at 100 miles an hour, so there was no sauce left by the time it got to your plate. But instead, he fights off this like inside fastball that's kind of, running in a little bit on him. And he gets around on it and still keeps the damn thing fair. That was amazing. But
incredible.
8 to 1.
That's an incredible at bat.
Yeah.
Hits about, over 3/4 way up the foul pole, almost went over the foul pole. He hit it so well, and it was just an amazing shot. Electric, the reaction of the fans and everything. I think that was the real pick-me-up. I thought when he got the double to make it 6-2, I thought that's what the crowd needed to lift him up. And I thought when he got to that at bat, I was thinking, boy, just a base hit here, make it 6-4. I did jump on the plus 4.5 runs and the team over 4.5 and the plus 4 runs after that first when they were down 6-1. Just thinking that these baseball games, you're not stable with these leads. I just don't trust it. So the Yankees come up with 8 runs, and now they're set up with their guy who's become their ace now after the great start against the Red Sox, going tonight against a bullpen night in Game 4 for the Blue Jays. So I kind of look at this like the line started at 175, dropped to 165. But I'm looking at this like the Blue Jays really are putting out a guy who pitched in Game 1 and 2 out of the pen, 1 in the 5th inning to close out the Yankees rally in the 5th where we took out Klossman. And then he pitched the 8th inning in Game 2. So now a couple of days off, and here he comes back in Game 4 as a starter. So I don't know if you're going to get an inning or 2 out of Arlen, but it's going to be bullpen by committee against with the Yankees, who pitched a tremendous game, and Schlittler, who pitched an outrageous game in Game 3 in the series against the Red Sox. So very interesting game tonight. I think I'm taking the Yankees to take it to a Game 5, and then who knows.
Schlittler was on my all Elliott Ness team. I mean, he was untouchable in that game. It was fantastic to watch. It was like watching Louisiana Lightning, Ron Guidry, at the height of that, whatever that was, 25-3 season, or any great pitcher who's on a complete roll. And the kid's only 23 years old, which is another amazing thing. So a very cool customer. If he can do any kind of replication of what he did in that game against the Red Sox, you would have to think the Yankees end up forcing a Game 5 there, but we'll find out. It's always easy, right? Post-race handicapping. Yep. I thought Toronto, everybody in the universe of degenerate gambling was saying, oh, well, the Yankees aren't out of this thing, and they can come back, and they'll win 3 in a row. It was only 4-1 for them to win 3 in a row after they lost the first 2 ball games. But they got clobbered in those first 2 ball games.
Yeah.
And this Vlad Guerrero Jr. Just owns the New York Yankees. The numbers are off the chart. Bill James would even be flabbergasted to see the kind of numerology this guy's posting against the Yankees, and even more exponentially ratcheted up in the postseason. He's a monster against them. And then he hits a home run in the first inning. And I texted you or somebody about, I love seeing a superstar, a guy of that stature, on an all-out hustle play. When he dove into home plate, it made you feel like, hey, for all the times that you're critical of these guys standing at home plate and posing and not hustling, that was great. That was good to see. And it kind of was emblematic of the rise in intensity when you get to the postseason. But I didn't see the Yankees coming all the way back in that thing until Judge stepped to the plate there, and it was 6-3, and I thought, this effing guy is going to hit a home run right here. And I wish I had an app. I would have punched my entire bank account, whatever's in there.
You would have gotten 8 or 9 to 1 or better. I can tell you that if you predicted a home run at that time. So pretty good prediction on your part, whether you got paid or not. I wish you had texted to me so I had the proof, but I love it.
And I wanted to go ahead and discuss this one proposition. I was reading about this today. Some handicapper was talking about, so who has the better chance of coming back from 0-2? Is it the Chicago Cubs or the Philadelphia Phillies? Cubs are tangling with the Milwaukee Brewers, an unsung team. You were on to them early in the year. You said, hey, watch out for these guys. They're going to be good. They end up with the best record in baseball, and nobody gives a flying one about it. The Cubs would be the darling team, naturally, and for them to come back, and they haven't really shown signs that they're all that competitive with Milwaukee in the first two games. Milwaukee's really handled them, it was like 9-3 and 7-3, something like that. It might have even been a wider margin in game one. So it hasn't been close. It hasn't even been contentious or competitive. And except for that first inning, when the Cubs managed to, when they coughed up the lead there to Milwaukee, that was about as competitive as it got for like one inning. But the Phillies are plus 860. The odds are 860 to 100, 860 to 100. If you think the Dodgers are going to go ahead and prevail, you're getting plus 860 with the Phillies to sweep the Dodgers in 3 games. So this guy's trying to make a case that you're better off taking that Phillies proposition because they have a better chance to do it. Will either team, in your estimation, Mike Jones, make that even an issue? Do you see the Cubs or the Phillies bouncing back in their series and possibly winning? The Yankees now, because they got by last night, which it didn't look like it was going to happen, now look like they're going to be able to at least force a game 5.
Aaron Nola going against Yamamoto tonight. I think it's a tough spot for the Phillies, but Nola has been pitching better. Does the warm weather, the climate, the change of getting out of Philadelphia help the Phillies at this particular point? Possibly. Yamamoto gave up 2 runs on an errors, but pitched pretty well against Cincinnati in the start. I mean, I got to think the team that has a better chance of doing this is Chicago, just because the lines will be low. They're at home, getting the 2 games at home, and then the momentum changes if they go back. So I think in that case, I'm a little worried about the Phillies playing 2 on the road against the world champions. I think it'll be a tougher spot. So if I had to pick a team that could do it, it would be Chicago. I don't see either one doing this. I think both Milwaukee and Dodgers are on a collision course to play each other for the NL pennant.
All right, so Brewers you see prevailing there. We may have a decision in this Mariners Tigers series already.
No, 3-3 now. Seattle.
3-3?
Yep. So we're tied going into the 6th.
I'd like to see the Tigers force a game 5. I really would in this series. And we have family ties to the Mariners because of the fact that our good buddy Jersey Kyle Martinez, his brother, is the president of business operations for the Mariners. This is his first year in that post. He was like in marketing director, worked his way up in the business side of things. Now is the number one guy, president of. Imagine what this does for business, having a guy hit 60 effing homers,
right?
And maybe making it to at least the division, the league championship run, which would be pretty good. So, and you would have to say that they're probably in there with as much of a shot as anybody because with the Phillies down 0-2, you're thinking, is Milwaukee still the best team left in the postseason? What would you say?
I think you knock the Dodgers out. You got to look at the Dodgers as being the favorite.
Yeah.
I think they got a lot. Very interesting point here I want to make is that, the Dodgers went up to Seattle, played the team they thought they might have played in the World Series, and swept them the last week of the season. When it really didn't matter to them, they went up there and did when Seattle was playing for something in the beginning, the division and a bye. And they end up doing it. So I kind of like what the Dodgers did the last week of the season. Now they've gotten serious. And so far, so good with the big wins over the Reds and then holding on. Their pen's been a little bit shaky, has shown that they have problems there. So probably a bet you want to look for is the second half over Phillies runs, if you can find it. That once they get past the starters, it seems like the Dodgers' pen has been a little weak in the series. But we'll see what happens tonight. I think the Cubs get a game, and I think the Dodgers close it tonight.
Aaron Nola, up and down, injury-plagued season. Earned run average looks like Dennis Erickson's old blood alcohol level when he was at that stoplight there. Really good guy, but I mean, not justifiable. What the breathalyzer had to say about that. All right, I gave out a 14 money line parlay, and I guess I'm still alive because you don't like to lose the first leg. It's like losing the first leg when you've invested a lot of money with 2 partners in a pick 6 ticket. And between the 3 of you, you've got like $600 in the thing. And the first leg, you leave out 1 horse, and of course it wins, and that's it. So I have the Tigers, Cubs, Yankees, and Dodgers winning today. Tigers, Cubs, Yankees, Dodgers. Money line.
Tigers, Cubs, Yankees, Dodgers. Well, you got your comeback with the Tigers down 3-0. Now it's 3-3 one out.
All the momentum is on my side. We'll see that.
Yeah.
And then Cubs at Wrigley, I'm with you. I think they probably take one. I can't go against this Schlitter kid. And if I don't have to lay a price, I'm more than happy to figure that he probably goes deep into the ballgame and the Yankees somehow win. And Nola is just too suspect for me for Philadelphia. Sometimes you see those guys put up a great performance and you're shocked, but for how long can he go? And I just feel like the vibe there is with the Dodgers. After taking 2 in Philly, they probably prevail at home tonight. So we'll see if we can hit that. Hey, everybody, good luck with all your plays. Mike, always a pleasure, my friend. And we'll catch you on many future programs here. And, of course, next week on Bleacher Brothers for Frankie G and the great Steve Luker. I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for